So thank you again, everyone, for making the time to join me. My name is Stephanie Nguyen. I'm the Online Education Recruitment Manager, and I will do an introduction in the next slide. But this session here specifically is the UC Berkeley Online Application Clinic. So our admissions team is a small and mighty team. We have here Elise Rudolph. She is the Director of Online Recruitment and Admissions, and we work together to support prospective students and applicants throughout their graduate journey. So if you ever have a question about the program design or the application, we are your primary point people to connect with, and we're happy to take on questions and really want to ensure that you feel supported throughout this journey, which I'll get into the next slide. So the purpose of the application clinic is essentially to help you understand the details of the application process. We want you to understand what is asked of you and support you through the whole process. Something that is important to us is that your application feels authentic to you and feels competitive. We want you to submit your application and feel that you put your best effort forward, and we are here to support you throughout that journey. So what we'll do in the session is go over the application in itself. So we'll go slide by slide. Some slides will be a little bit more intuitive, so we'll get through that. And there are going to be some slides where we take a little bit of extra time there. Do note that I will have a Q&A at the very end of this. You can feel free to drop in your questions throughout the time that I'm presenting, but I will make sure to answer at the very end of the presentation. This will be focused more specifically on the application in itself, but if there are time in the Q&A where we can go over other questions such as program design and whatnot, I'll be more than happy to answer that. So I just wanted to be clear about the expectations of this workshop here. So the eligibility requirements are three specific things. We ask that students have a bachelor's degree from a recognized equivalent from an accredited institution, or will have completed it prior to matriculating at UC Berkeley. So you can be a senior applying to our program, but as long as when it's time to enroll in the program, you will have conferred your bachelor's, meaning that you've met all the requirements to earn your bachelor's degree. And for most international students, sometimes it might be called a first degree. So either or will be accepted. And we ask that students complete a statistics or college level math course with a grade of B+ or higher. I'll get into the details about what this looks like as we have a specific section on this. And we ask that you have a minimum of a 3.0 GPA, and this is a benchmark across the university. So if you are at or above a 3.0, perfect. If you are not or inching really close to a 3.0, we encourage you and invite you to still apply to the program. We can always talk about ways to strengthen your application through a one-on-one appointment, or you can email me directly. So the application checklist, this is a quick overview. And again, each slide will have some more details around this. So I'll just give a quick overview of this. We ask for two statements, a statement of purpose and a personal history statement. And we have a advanced GPA calculation worksheet. So this is very unique to our program. And there are 3 letters of recommendations that we ask students to submit. Transcripts as well. So from all institutions that you've attended. For international applicants, we ask for your original transcripts, degree certificate, if it's not on your transcripts directly. And if required, you may need to submit WES ICAP translations as well. We ask for your resume or CV, whichever you use for your employer. And we have a non-refundable application fee. So $135 for US permanent residents and $155 for international applicants. And in some cases, if you've studied abroad, meaning that you've obtained your bachelor's outside of the US, there may be a chance that you need to complete the English proficiency exam. So we have 2 different types of exams that you can use. They must be valid. It can be a TOEFL or an IELTS, and it's optional for students to take the GRE if you'd like. And if so, you can submit your scores to 4833. So the admissions timeline, we're one of the few programs here that have multiple options for you. And I think that's a really nice approach, especially for students that might be at different stages in their career and just need a little bit of time or maybe want to hear sooner. So if you are applying to our program, you have two options for the fall term. For students that are applying to multiple programs, would like to hear back a little bit sooner, January 5th is the first deadline that we'll have for fall of 2026 start. And if you need a little bit more time, no worries at all. You can submit your application by March 2nd. That is the final deadline for fall 2026. We will no longer accept applications from that point on if you're planning to start in fall of 2026. So it's not rolling admissions. We have set deadlines and distinct timelines when we will release the decision admissions. So if you're planning to apply by priority deadline, you'll hear back most likely, let's say mid-February to early March. And the final deadline, applicants will hear back late April, early May. So really take your time to think about, your timeline and what works best for you. And the program would start in early August of 2026. For students that are interested in just exploring the program but not necessarily ready to apply, and you want to start a little bit later, we have the spring 2027 application open now. There is no priority deadline for that. And you can start your application today, as I mentioned, but the final deadline would close August 2nd, 2026, and you would receive your decisions letter around late September to early October. Courses would begin in January of 2027. So think about it, figure out what works best for you. So creating your application. The first thing you want to do is get to the application. So you'll get through it by going to UC Berkeley's Slate application portal. We do not utilize SOFAs as many public health programs do. We're one of the few that don't. So you'll find it directly on our website. And how you'll get there is click the Slate application and you'll see UC Berkeley graduate applications for the 26-27 term. And you'll click 2026. From there, you'll be asked which term you would like to consider. So this is where it's really important because your application will be specific to that term. So if you're changing things, sometimes it may not roll over. So really think about the term that you want to apply for. Fall 2026 for example purposes, and you'll select your program. The public health online program is ours. This will give you questions that are specific to our program. If you select anything else, as I mentioned, it may not roll over, so be very intentional about what you're selecting. The biographical information. So this section here, pretty straightforward, I would say, as it asks you details around your name, address, citizenship. So one thing to note here is if you do plan to submit any exams or have to submit it, make sure that you include the email that you've used for those exams. If you've used separate email addresses from your application and another one for your exams, they may populate into the portal but not connect to your application. So this would allow us to look for it and help match your exam scores to your application should you have completed that. Personal background. So this here covers details around your ethnic or racial identity, residency, visa status, and some more details around military service and so forth. So some things may not apply, but some will. And this is really helpful for us to understand our demographics of applicants. And in some cases, you may also want other people to have access to your application, so you can fill that out here. These slides will be, or this presentation will be sent out in slides, so you'll have the option to click around as you'll see some hyperlinks here as well if you want to explore that. But our sister department, I should say, the UC Berkeley Graduate Admissions, who oversees all graduate programs, they actually have an FAQ section here. So I encourage you to check that out if you would like to. For students that may be undocumented, you would want to select, you can select OT for that if you'd like. And I want to actually, before moving into this, I also want to say that your status does not, um, h- you know, have any impact if you will gain admission or not. So just keep that in mind that there's no impact there. I really want to stress that to you. Educational background. So this here is going to focus more on your educational background, such as disciplinary violations, UC Berkeley affiliations, wanting to know more information if you've been a California community college student or had any special programs and so forth. So a lot of just click yes, no, or more. I think the only thing that you'll have to focus a little bit more on is maybe family background and have to ask some questions around there if possible. Some things you will also see that don't have asterisk, that usually means that they're optional, but highly encouraged for you to complete. Economic background. So here, this is really helpful if you are applying to the Dean's Health Equity and Leadership Award, which I'll have another section on. That's a scholarship that is offered through our program directly. But this one is also, if you're not planning to, it's optional, highly encouraged. Or seeking, let's say we get a lot of students giving us some insight on their economic background. We can help figure out if we need more, if you need it to be more merit-based scholarships or more focused on, you know, income-based scholarships. So that just really helps us with that kind of information. The academic history. So this one is very, very important. This is where you start to upload information here. So we ask that students submit a transcript from all institutions attended, starting from your first degree, so bachelor's and onward. If you've completed a coursework at a community college and then you moved over to UC Berkeley, we need two separate transcripts. So always make sure that you submit an individual copy from all institutions attended, even if it appears on your graduating transcript. The reason being is because we want to see your coursework in full. Sometimes your graduating transcript can miss information, right? So include that there, fill it out, because if you are missing it, we're going to have to go back to you and say, knock, 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 you're missing this. We actually need this to move your application forward. And in the same section, you'll be asked to submit your transcript. You just got to scroll a little bit lower and you can self-upload. So the nice thing about the application is during this portion, before admission into the program, you are able to self-upload your transcripts. The only time we would request official copies is if your program does not allow for you to have unofficial copies and it's direct. Or if your transcripts that you've uploaded are ineligible. I can't read it because it's missing information, it's messy, there might be few instances. So again, it is self-uploaded for the purposes of applying to the program, with exception if it's ineligible or a special circumstance. The GPA, as I mentioned to you earlier, we ask that students submit an advanced GPA. So this is for students that are US that have graduated in the US or in specific areas of Canada. And this calculates your GPA between a 0-point scale to a 4-point GPA. It's a 4-point scale essentially. And I actually have another worksheet or workshop on that I will host. But essentially, the advanced GPA calculates your last 2 years of um, school work only for your undergraduate career. So nothing would entail or include your graduate courses taken after you earn your bachelor's. This is strictly for your bachelor's. And usually this gives us a chance to see your upper div courses and whatnot. And it's not the same for all students. Some students may have been enrolled in school for a little bit longer. So I would say if you did not do a typical 4-year, maybe you did 5 years, then you can count at the 60 unit mark. And again, I'll have a separate worksheet for you to take a look at, and I will also host workshops. So in the next section, GPA for courses in the major field of study, we're simply asking you to pool the designated courses that were a part of your major. So the courses you needed to complete in order to earn your bachelor's that were not elective courses, not unrelated departments, but specifically for your major. So let's just say that you graduated with a bachelor's in psychology. You're only going to pull classes that distinctly state psychology. So Psychology 101, Psychology 102, for example, but you would not put public health in that space there. Now, if in the next section, your intended field of study was not your major for your undergraduate degree, please calculate the GPA for all courses listed on your transcripts that relate to the field of study for which you are applying. So if you had public health courses specifically, but if it doesn't apply, it doesn't apply. And the next section is the cumulative GPA. So that one would be really easy to find. That one is already going to be placed on your transcripts, and you can locate it there. And I will skip to the next slide, as you might be interested in what the advanced GPA calculation sheet works or looks like. So essentially, it is a calculation worksheet that it's a plug and play. You plug in the courses that are asked of you, and once you include coursework there, so for example, let's say that this candidate, Oski, attended UC Berkeley. We'll include the last 2 years, and it was fall of 2023 for them. They include it here. They include the coursework that they've completed. And then once they put in their grade and the units associated with that course, it'll populate automatically the grade credits and the grade points. And that will help, as you complete this form, determine what your advanced GPA looks like. And in this case, they also did a summer course at another institution. So they did it at Laney College. They had a grade of A here, plugged it in 3, and again, same process. So once you get to the bottom of the calculation, it'll have a number that you need to take. So let's say that it was 3.83 because at the bottom they had a B or a C or something. So you'll take that, you'll add it back into this sheet here, and that's it. Now, this worksheet, we do ask you to submit it here. So that way we can take a look to see, if you did it incorrectly, we can help you and say, hey, you actually missed a whole chunk of courses. You need to include it, and we'll help you resubmit. Again, only for students that completed their degree in the US and partial areas in Canada. So moving forth to the languages, we ask you to include any languages that you speak, and this helps indicate your competency there. For recommendation letters, I know that we get a lot of students that are really hung up on this because they may have been outside of school for 5 years, 3 years, and you're just not in touch with professors anymore. That's okay. We ask that ideally, let's go through this checklist first. So ideally, we ask that letters should have one professional letter, at least one should focus on an academic potential. And it is acceptable to use all professional references in lieu of an academic letter if you're no longer in contact with your professors. And the way to go about this is having them observe your skill sets or projects that you've been a part of, because those can be indicators of your graduate school preparation. So for example, maybe you've worked on a project that required you to do a lot of writing, right? And that can give some insight on your writing sample. There could be a project that required you to focus on pulling data. That's something that is going to definitely be useful in public health and in the program in itself. So they can still give indicators on times that you were really successful and plug that into motivating factors on why this could be a great time for you to pursue graduate school. So, one of the things that I think can be helpful in searching strong recommenders could be asking the folks that you have in mind if they can write you a strong recommendation letter. And a helpful tool and tip can be giving them your resume or CV, giving them, if you're comfortable, you don't have to do this, but your statement of purpose, or giving them even links to our website so they can understand more about our program and what it looks like, right? They'll get a better understanding of the mission, vision, values, the courses that we offer, and just kind of the environment in itself. So let's say that you get all three yeses, and they're willing to write letters of recommendation. So once you plug in their contact information, and once you click send to recommender, they're automatically going to get an invitation from the portal. It's all automated. And then one thing that you can also do is submit your application before they submit their letters. So keep in mind they have the same deadlines as you do. And their letters are due at the same day, but I want to point that our application is very finicky because it's utilized across different campuses and departments. So the deadline that they will see is only going to say March 2nd. So if you're planning to apply by January 5th, one of my tips is to leave a note that says that you're going to be applying by that deadline, just so they have a heads up that you're not applying by that second deadline. You want to apply by that first one. And I also just recommend that students waive their right to access letters of recommendation. It gives them an opportunity to be more candid and honest. So moving on to the employment history, this here is going to include your most relevant and current employment. Ideally, if it's in public health, great. And if not, that's okay. I do want to note that applicants coming into this field are coming from different spectrums of the career space. So make sure that you include your organization name and so forth. This really helps us get a better understanding of the work that you're doing, and this particular information actually is for the career development team and also the larger university, just to get a better understanding of our scope of students and where they're at. So self-reported exam scores, as I mentioned, some students may be required to take an English proficiency exam. So if you fall under the category where you do need to take that, it has to be a valid exam score. It cannot be something that was submitted or completed 10 years ago. It needs to be within the last 2 years. And we do have language around that. So you can always check that out to better understand what options you have. But again, it's the TOEFL or the IELTS. The GRE is going to remain optional for applicants. If you do want to submit GRE exam scores, this can be great for a candidate that doesn't have much quantitative skills. You can also set yourself up for success by aiming for the 50th percentile or higher. So that's generally what I would consider a competitive score. Usually the GRE exams cover writing, verbal skills, things like that. So I would say the heavier focus is the quant skills. So do what you will with that. If you want to take it, great. If not, we have plenty of sections in the application that can help you elaborate a little bit more about other skills and quant skills and so forth. So moving on to one of the hot topics that we get in the application, like why do you guys require two separate essays? What does it mean? So the personal history statement, essentially this includes some of these topics here. You do not have to hit every bullet point, but these are some of the approaches that you can take when thinking about how to write your personal history statement. So things can include your educational performance, especially if you had any training gaps or academic gaps. This can be a great time to make any explanations, make that case as to what happened and what you have done to move forth, right? We really want to see motivating factors in the personal history statement. This can also include any challenges, responsibilities, and more importantly, your leadership skills. I think one of the nice things about a personal history statement is it allows you the opportunity to reflect. It allows you to think about your journey and how that has led to where you're at now. It doesn't necessarily have to talk about public health specifically, but I do find that a lot of applicants may throw that into the personal history statement. I find that a lot of students may talk about the experiences that have helped them get to a point of really thinking about graduate school, and that would then lead into your statement of purpose. So remember, your personal history statement can reflect about your experiences and have shaped you to the person that you are today, and how that journey has gotten you to the point of getting ready to pursue graduate school, and that will lead you into the statement of purpose. So the statement of purpose is very different because this gives you an opportunity to talk more specifically about future goals that and partnerships that you see with this program, and thinking about the future too. As a future public health professional or somebody that's seasoned but is looking for new training, refreshers, wherever you're at in your journey. This gives us more insight as to why you're selecting our program above any other program, right? We know that you might be applying to multiple programs, but we want you to focus on us, center on us for a moment, and let us know what concentration you're interested in pursuing and why. Is there any particular training gap that you have that this program can help address? Think about what you need an MPH for and how that will help elevate your um, interests, your experiences, your goals. You can really dream big here. And I love this section here because this gives us an insight on what you find interesting within our program and how that can support you as a student. I like to think about the statement of purpose as a space for longevity. When students are admitted into the program, we're not thinking about you just as an applicant, but we're really thinking about how, that's why these two essays are so important, because they give us insight on how you'll really fit within the larger community. And we know that you'll go off to do great things, but also as a student, you will too. So, how can we support you with that? We really want to ensure that we're the right program for you so there can be a nice harmony. Between our collaboration. We really don't want you to have a bait and switch feel, right? So the more information you provide us, we get to see, are we the right fit for you? So definitely take your time with these statements. Both of them are going to be 1,000 words max. So you can use 1,000 words max. You don't have to use a full 1,000, but many students have a lot to share. Do not repeat your resume as well, because you can reference to it here and there, but your resume is already going to be, very comprehensive. So you don't need to state every single thing that you've done line by line. Utilize this as real estate for you to talk more about your interests and what you need from an MPH. So the public health program section, I love this section because here you can select things like concentration, you're interested in pursuing. This would allow you to upload your resume or CV. And for students that may be on the earlier career or have extensive volunteer experiences, you can utilize this space here to document the types of experiences you have as a volunteer, and just let us know a little bit more of your internships and whatnot. So this can really help you as I would say we're looking for leaders. We're looking for students that have a lot of leadership skills. And this doesn't mean always on the front side. This can mean leadership skills that you just naturally possess, right? So giving us more insight to work with. I would say use a resume font style. I think that is a nice way to keep things clear, concise. Public health online program continued. So as I mentioned, the quantitative skills, a lot of students ask me all the time, what kind of quant skills are you looking for? We are not looking for extensive, quant skills for research purposes or anything like that, because not everybody coming into the program is seeking that. But if you do, perfect. If not, that's okay as well. But what we're looking for is preparation. We want to know what types of quantitative skill sets do you have exposure to or experience with, and you can use this short answer to elaborate on that. So for example, I might talk about a particular project that I held or I led or participated in, and how I utilize certain skill sets. Maybe I had exposure to R, or I utilize basic formulas to assess the particular outcome of a situation, right? So just think about the many ways you have adopted quantitative skills or have preparation or exposure. You've taken a class in the last few recent years and you want to talk a little bit more about that. And sometimes even in like classes that, let's say it's a psychology methods course, like a 101 methods course, but it doesn't really specify that you had utilized statistical reasoning or skill sets. but you know that you did that, this can be a great opportunity to highlight that as well. You can say, in this particular class, I utilize these skills and studied X, Y, and Z. As I mentioned, that can give us more insight to what you have prepared. So, continuing on, relevant information. This is also really great for students that have done or completed publications, presentations, and want us to know, right? This can be really helpful, again, towards your leadership skills. This can be a benefit to aiding your holistic review as well. So keep in mind that what I love about our program is we don't factor just one area of your application. So you're not going to be you're not going to be given admission just solely off of one area. You're going to be reviewed holistically. And what that means is all the materials, all the information that you provide, hopefully it's comprehensive enough for us to understand you as an applicant, your interests, your skills, your needs, your gaps. And this helps us align with the holistic approach. We want to be able to see where your strong points are and where other areas of growth can be supported throughout the program. So the more information you provide us, the more we can understand you as an applicant. So again, you can put addendums here, abstracts, anything that you feel is relevant to you as a professional, or things that you were concerned about, but you really want us to take into consideration to your growth and strengths as you've built your skills throughout your journey. Scholarships. So scholarships are very important to your graduate school, journey. So one thing within our program is we have the Dean's Health Equity and Leadership Award, and that's the only scholarship that we'll have available at this time of applying for fall students. So I encourage everyone to apply. The Dean's Health Equity and Leadership Award, we call it DEL for short. It's basically an in-house scholarship that would offer one cost per credit unit deducted from your program fees each semester. And this would be over a period of 7 semesters. If selected, we typically give it to 1 to 3 students, depending on funding for that year. But it's a great way to, just get more funding available. I'll have more information around other scholarships and whatnot, but this is the only one that we have right now if you're considering applying to our program. And you can find that in the scholarship section. Make sure to fill out the economic background to be completed. The Dell Award is going to have prompts. So they'll ask you, it's almost similar to the statement of purpose, but keep in mind that it's a separate committee that is reviewing your scholarships. It's not going to be the same as the application. So another thing I should note too is if you're applying for this scholarship, you'll hear back of your decision, your admissions decision first. Typically, scholarship results come maybe a week or two out from getting your decision letter. And we're getting close to the end. So the application fee is $135, as I mentioned, non-refundable, or $155 for international applicants. So our program, we do not have fee exemptions, but you may qualify for a fee waiver. Do not assume that you are automatically given this. You actually have to apply for this. So you can use the student aid report through FAFSA. Put that document in the fee waiver section. You can also demonstrate financial need by seeing if you had any special participating programs that you were a part of, and that could be McNair Scholar. Let's see, there's a few others as well, so I won't go through the deep details, but you can check that out once I send out the slide, or you can go directly by going to UC Berkeley Graduate Admissions Fee Waiver and check that out there. And if approved, you would be notified in your application portal, or if you're denied, they will tell you why, and you can give another type of document to see if you can qualify then. This is actually something that is not done directly through our admissions team or department. So, that is all through graduate admissions. And as we get to the end of this here, we have resources. So the next session is going to be on October 8th, 5 p.m. If you're interested in learning more about the program, so all the specific details about the program format and wanting to know a little bit more about the concentrations and so forth, that's a really great opportunity to learn more there. We'll actually have a student joining us, and an incredible student. She's currently doing the epidemiology and biostatistics concentration through our online MPH program. So join us for that one, but I will take this time to close the recording. So thank you so much for following along this presentation.